Thank you to whoever started recording.
Yeah, I own the meeting maybe, so
Yeah, I think you do.
cool.
Okie dokie. So I have, I guess I should first pull up the, let's move this here, get my calendar going. Paper doc, since that's where the agenda is. Today is the 10th. Cool, started recording. Let's go through the board. All right, so I got milestone, that's due today, week 31 to 33 up right now. We can reassign these to the next milestone if we're not going to get to them. All right, Aaron, chain view refactor. I think we've both reviewed this, or I'm sorry, this is Ludo's PR.
I think this is my. This is an issue. I don't know. This
Okay.
is like an issue for implementing this
I think we had
JavaScript.
decided that Aaron's PR would subsume it. So I had just put a comment in there that I think it can be safely closed, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, I think
Sure.
we can just close that.
All right, let me just do that then. All right, try this again. Aaron's PR.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Wait, this is maybe your PR that was already merged maybe a week and a half ago. So this we can close.
Sweet.
Can we just link it to the pull request? Or I guess it is. Is it 1743? Is that the one?
Yep, right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was just closed. Type string support and clarity. Ludo's PR, I believe, addresses this.
Yeah.
And I think that's still in progress and will remain in progress for this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Ludo's out this week, so I don't know if we'll get to a point where it's ready to merge, but at the very least, we should identify like any blocking issues so that whenever he has time, he can get through them.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the wrong issue for that, though. We should open his PR issue. Where is that?
It might not be in the milestone.
Yeah. Let's see if maybe it's here. No.
Well, I think if you just clear the, like, it might not have a milestone label.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I think if people are open to experimenting with just a GitHub board for issue management for this repo, there's already a board that I have that I can add more automation to that other teams have found a lot of success with and sort of avoids a lot of ZenHub's quirks, not to mention performance issues.
Yeah. I'd be fine with that. I think a lot of the historical reasons that we've used ZenHub is that we've previously had the same team working on multiple repositories at the same time, which made.
And that's not really the case anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least not for Stacks blockchain. So.
Yeah, let's take a look at the GitHub issue board instead.
Well, we can maybe use that next time around. I think
yeah.
for today, let's just keep working through this. And then I can make some tweaks and keep the board ready so that we can use it for a trial run next week.
Cool, sounds good. All right, so Ludo's not here right now, so I think the status of this PR is just gonna be bumped to the next milestone.
Yeah.
It looks like it's on the way. I guess like maybe the biggest question still remaining for me is how do we want to, like whether or not this PR is gonna take a stab at doing either some sort of refinement type or otherwise adding some way to compare UTF-8 to ASCII or construct a UTF-8 string from an ASCII string or go the other way around, things like that, conversion problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this PR is pretty close to done from my perspective. Like if we want to approach refinement types, should probably do that in a subsequent PR. But I think that there are some parser oddities happening right now that probably existed before this PR, but are somewhat magnified by this PR.
Is this the escape codes?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Since Ludo's not here, I'm just not going to take any action on this besides change this milestone. This is the related issue. All right.
That's weird.
What's this?
That is a weird comment. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know where it's pulling that comment from.
Which comment are we talking about?
It looks like a ZenHub bug. Like I think that that's like a. Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah. No, don't close this out.
Push it back.
Yeah, I mean, it's in review. Like, I don't know what the next steps on this are at this point. Like, I think that there have been a couple cycles of review, and yeah, in my mind, it seems like I think I addressed all the comments, but yeah.
We want to quickly find that. It's not this, it's the,
Yeah, I think that if you go to 1734, just on GitHub, you should be able to
yeah, ZenHub's behaving oddly.
go to polls.
Huh.
Oh, might not be 1734, just 1787. There we go.
Cool. Let's just do this instead. ZenHub's behaving oddly. Alrighty. I think that I haven't looked at your comments yet, so I need to go back and reread what you've changed as of the past few days. Other than that, it looks like it might be good to merge as soon as the end of today. I guess like my biggest concern was this right here, like the singleton chain coordinator and the need to pull in the cross beam package in order to deal with something that could be addressed with a condition variable. But it looks like you've already taken care of that. Okay. I'll take a look at this before the end of the day. In progress. Is this something there's a PR for right now, Aaron, or is this just on your to-do for this week?
There's no PR for it. There's a slight chance that a PR could open today. Basically, it just sort of comes down to how much coverage I can get to in tests today. So I have an implementation for this, and I have tests of most of the corner cases, but I want to get the code coverage results generating again, at least locally, so that I can see maybe what branches and stuff like that aren't currently covered.
Yeah. Can you share notes on how to do that? Because I would like to do that as well for my own stuff.
Sure. Yeah, the only tricky thing for you is that you need to be running Rust nightly.
I see. I can do that. I'll just set up a chroot.
Yeah, it requires some unstable compiler flags.
Yeah, I kind of figured. That should be doable though.
Yep.
But you feel like we'll have a PR in this milestone?
Yeah, I would say the PR is either today or tomorrow. So I don't know. It's on the cusp of the milestone, and it probably won't get reviewed and merged this milestone. So.
All right, we'll just put it for the next one then.
Yeah.
Cool. Both of these things of my issues here, like they shouldn't even be on a milestone right now. They're just backlogged. Let's see. Oh, this is opened a long time ago.
Yeah, that's a pretty strange one. I think that we actually have since shipped a new tag for Clarity SDK.
Okay.
This is like a little related to, if you look at the Clarity SDK repo, there's some discussion in an issue around generation of the Clarity SDK. Because like the way the Clarity SDK works is it actually ships with a native binary for
Right.
evaluating Clarity code locally. And it gets that out of this repo. And currently the process is very painful and manual. So trying to get some automation in place for that is kind of the next step here.
Should I rename this issue then?
I would say we might be able to close it. Like I would ask Rutger if we can close it since a new version of the Clarity SDK has since shipped, since this issue opened.
Bizarre. It's not letting me add him. All right. I think this is something Ludo was working on. Just not talk about it, I guess. POX stacks lockup state. I have a PR open for this, as you all know, but it needs some pretty significant revision now that we've all agreed to do automatic unlocking. I hope to have that sent out today or tomorrow with all the requisite changes, and then we can start reviewing it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. That PR also includes the delegation state, just because they're very intrinsically linked, it turns out. So I just went ahead and tackled them both.
Yeah.
And same idea for the recipient set. In fact, this is the sole purpose of having the Clarity contract, to generate that recipient set.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to include this as well, just because it's pretty straightforward to do, just to implement a rejection mechanism. All that would have to happen is within the registration window, the stackers would be able to say that they reject the anchor block. It doesn't matter. They don't have to say the hash. They just have to say, don't let POX happen in this reward cycle. And then that in turn would be linked to like get reward set. The reward set would be empty, or it would be none or something like that. Does that sound reasonable?
Trying to think. So registration vote against. I see. Yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah, the code's going to be really simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what it means is like it basically makes it so that miners would need to prevent people from sending these these rejection stacking transactions in any fork that gets chosen as the anchor block. In order to like, so if I send out these rejection messages, then as long as my rejection message is included in a block that's like a parent of the anchor, like an ancestor of the anchor, then the anchor can't be chosen. Right?
Yeah.
And so what that means is that miners would need to do some amount of collusion in order to counter this behavior.
Moreover, you'd be able to send these as Bitcoin transactions. I'm not going to do that in this particular PR, but I will in the next PR that adds Bitcoin transaction support for POX.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
One thing that I don't know yet for this PR is what threshold, like what fraction of stacks have to reject the anchor block for POX to be disabled.
Right.
This is still to do. I haven't had a chance to work on it yet. Making a core dump happen automatically. Just real quick, this looks like we addressed this already. I don't know, it's kind of an old issue from March. Alrighty. New issues, sort these. So I just sent this PR. I'm still trying to get the test to all pass. Over the weekend, we noticed the test net had deadlocked. It was responding to Prometheus pings, but it was neither making progress in the peer network, nor was it downloading and processing blocks. And I think I know why. It turns out if the channel of communication between the relayer thread and the peer-to-peer thread gets saturated, it can result in the peer network blocking on the relayer thread to do something like clear out its pending responses. And the relayer thread can also get blocked waiting for the peer network to process one of its requests, like a request to advertise blocks. So both of these threads ended up waiting for each other.
I see.
Pretty sure this is the case because networking activity and tenure processing activity and all other relayer request or relayer directive processing had ceased showing up in the logs for several hours. But the node was still live and the threads were still live.
I see.
The PR just makes it so that the PR revamps some of the ways in which a request handle can be used to send messages to the peer network. The biggest change is that these requests are now unidirectional. So the relayer can ask the peer-to-peer network to do things, but it will not get a response back. And the reason why this change can work is that we don't actually use the request handle logic to do anything else right now. All the relayer is doing is saying, hey, announce this transaction for me or propagate these blocks for me, but it's not doing anything that it expects a reply for. It's not trying to connect to a peer, for example. It turns out that's not even used anywhere in the code base. So I'm just going to make all of these unidirectional, first of all, and I'm going to make it so that if the channel is full, the request just fails early. It's not going to block.
The channel from the relayer to the P2P thread?
Yes.
I see. Go ahead.
I can make it block, but I mean, it's,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, it probably shouldn't block. Like, it shouldn't be the case that two threads should be able to block on each other processing a queue.
Right. This wouldn't be the case either way. It would just mean that the relayer gets throttled by the peer networking thread's ability to process its requests. So like what that would mean is your tenure processing would slow down if the peer network was slow, which I don't think we want,
No.
because that in turn would slow down mining.
Yes.
So I should have this PR ready by end of day. I'm just trying to get the full networking test suite to pass.
Were you able to create a reproduction of the deadlock, Jude?
No, I wasn't. It only manifests under it would if this is indeed the cause, it would only manifest under heavy networking load. Like you would have to be mining at the same time as processing outbound requests. I mean, I could try to simulate it, but I think it's pretty straightforward from the debug output.
Okay.
This issue I opened over the weekend. One concern that Munib had brought to my attention is that, concerning BNS 2.0 with namespaces, there's no need to continue constraining ourselves to the types of parameters that Stacks 1.0 currently allows. Namely, we can do things like say names that can never expire but can never be but at the same time can never be transferred if they never expire, or maybe names that have certain properties can only be updated in this certain way. The design space for here is pretty big of ways in which namespaces can be configured. And we have an opportunity here to make it so that a namespace's names could be passed through a registrar contract, which in turn would set constraints on when and how names can be processed for that namespace. And then, the current rule set for Stacks 1.0 would just be one of those registrar options. But if people wanted to go ahead and create something like an auction system or some other system that like throttled updates or throttled transfers, they could do so. And we wouldn't have to anticipate that use case. We could just say, hey, here's an interface, here's a trait you have to go implement, go use this as your registrar. Does that sound good to people?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. That would work.
Yeah, I think it would work. It would have like a little bit of an impact on like how we generate transactions for BNS. Because if you're operating on a name within a namespace, basically you need to concretize the trait in your transaction.
Right.
So you would need to supply whatever the registrar contract is in your transaction. But otherwise, yeah, this seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I do something similar in Swapper, the version 2 of Swapper.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you can't store the like you can't dynamically invoke the trait.
Yeah, you can, but you can verify that the trait the principal you're given is the right one.
Yes. Yeah.
One other constraint here would be, you'd have to make sure that I think I might be repeating Pascal. We would need to make sure that the particular registrar contract is being used. Like if my namespace says you must use this registrar, then the name operations must fail if that registrar contract is not used, even though you're concretizing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just gonna add those to the design notes there. This is mirroring an offline conversation I had with Muneeb as well, and just turning it into an issue. There is some, this is kind of already known in like the research community around blockchains and the economic incentives around them. Transaction fees can have an impact on things like token transfers or other sorts of DeFi constructs, as well as just general mining. Like if I, for example, sent a transaction whose transaction fee exceeded the Coinbase, that can do some interesting things to miners' incentives as to whether or not to work on building the chain or whether or not to try to fight over the transaction. One way we can remedy some of the weird incentives that can pop up, in which the space is pretty big, the weird incentives that can pop up from processing particular transactions, specifically processing transactions that let people cut in line to do things like token trades, like on Swapper, for example, would be to make it so that the transaction fee for that transaction doesn't materialize until well after the block is confirmed, like a month later. Whereas the Coinbase would continue to materialize 250 blocks later, or whatever the POX registration window lockup period is. Technically speaking, this is pretty easy to do. We already track the fees separately from the Coinbase and the miner rewards. We would just change when they get materialized. But I was just wondering if there's any pushback or caveats to going ahead and doing this.
So is that so that a different miner would get the fee?
Yeah, the miner.
Or you just eventually get the fee, or the miner will eventually get the fee?
Yeah, the miner always gets the fees. It's just that they would get the fees much later than they would get the Coinbase.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that would really change though, because when I read that yesterday, or because a miner that has a long-term view on things, whether they get the fee a month later or even a year later,
the thing
still
is,
get it. The price might have fluctuated, but that I don't know that it changes the incentive for dealing and not dealing with the transaction.
I think it does. I think it does in the case where the transaction fee is grows unbound, like gets to be equal to or bigger than the Coinbase, because transaction fees grow unbound, like making the miner wait longer to receive a transaction fee for basically creates a time discount on the monetary compensation they would get from that fee. So if they're forced to wait in the extreme case, like a year or so, then the token, the STX denominated transaction fee might be worth like, assuming the price didn't fluctuate, it'd be worth like 90% of what it would have been had they been able to get it right then and there or something like that, because it's a lost opportunity cost as well. I asked Munib to provide more economic models, like where he's actually getting this rationale from, like what modeling led him to this conclusion. But I think you're absolutely right, though, Pascal. Like, they're still getting the fee. It's not fundamentally taking away that promise. It's just trying to remove some of the more extreme cases where people can use a very high fee to cut ahead in line in the short and cause short-term problems, like executing a back-running attack, which happens on Uniswap right now in Ethereum, for example. I pay a very high fee and I get my transaction in early, and in doing so, I can take advantage of on-chain arbitrage opportunities that give me a higher payoff than the fee lost. But if miners have to wait to receive that transaction fee, then it raises the stakes for me, the attacker.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that would be the case. Because even if you were like a miner that was only looking for very large fee transaction and waiting for these, unless you have a very short-term view, I don't know that it would change anything. But
it also changes the miner's incentive to initiate a fork.
Right.
In all cases, because it increases the reward for the block reaching a certain height. So like the longer that your rewards are delayed, the more of an incentive you have to just advance the chain state. I agree that there's like a limit to this benefit. Like if a transaction was worth 4 times the Coinbase or something, the chain would probably stall because every miner would just be attacking the previous miner's block.
yeah, I think it's more the other miners that would just, the next block, you just want to fork it so that block never ever sees.
Yeah, but it would disincentivize those forks because all of those miners are presumably waiting on fees that they would like to collect at some point.
Well, but then you start a fork just the block before, and yeah, you re-include the transaction, and you keep doing that till the fork catches on. I don't know.
Right. That's exactly why you would want the transaction fee to be redeemable much later. What it does is it discounts the worth of that transaction, so you have less of a reason to fight over it with other miners.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the discounting bit. Even if you have to wait a year.
It could be a function of the fraction of the Coinbase the fee is. Like if you pay a transaction fee that's 10 times the Coinbase, you might wait 10 years to redeem it or something like that. But if it's only like, 0.1% of the Coinbase, you could get it at the same time as the Coinbase.
Yeah.
Plus, doesn't one miner get 40% of the fee and the next one 60% or vice versa?
That's only for micro blocks. For blocks that
for
are
micro blocks, yeah.
Yeah, for the anchored blocks, it's they get all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be worthwhile to sort of continue this discussion offline and dive into some more
it'd be
detail.
interesting to get Munib's thinking there as to why that helps, because I
agree. We need to get more data.
Because it makes just a block with a overall higher fee, but you don't get. But I failed to see how to even waiting a year or 5 years, 10 years maybe, but.
Yeah, it's the time discount of money is what does this. Like money that you can have, 10 years from now is worth less to you now than it would be if you were given the same amount today.
I mean, if I'm a miner and if sort of the delayed reward period is too high, like wouldn't that also discourage miners? Like there's probably like a function of time versus like minor interest that also comes into play here now.
Right. Diwakar, I can send you some. I can post some papers on this link that talk about the general problem of what happens when transaction fees exceed the Coinbase and blockchains. You end up getting very perverse incentives as a result. Like you'll get miners doing this forking attack that Aaron mentioned. You'll get something called a petty compliance miner that like mines one transaction per block and does nothing else. Anyway, like you really want it to be the case that your Coinbase is worth more to the miner than the sum of the fees in the block. Otherwise, the incentive models for mining the chain and making sure the chain stays live and makes progress, it changes in a way that's not good for the chain. I would think that any sort of variable reward for fees would fundamentally be structured around trying to make it so the time discount of the fees there would make it so that the actual worth of all of the fees to the miner is less than the Coinbase.
But eventually the Coinbase disappears, right? After I don't know how many years. And the only thing left are the fees.
No, the Coinbase is fixed at 300 stacks per block in perpetuity after the 15th year.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But either way, this needs more discussion and it needs more input from the models where he was getting this from. I was just relaying the conversation I had with him here for purposes of transparency and for opening it up to the community. So this issue got opened earlier. I don't know what Rosetta is. Diwakar, you seem to know what this is.
Yeah, so Rosetta is a project by Coinbase for standardizing interacting with different blockchain platforms. So obviously the genesis was, in their own internal infrastructure, they're supporting many different blockchains. So over time, they've come up with a set of APIs that provide sort of a good standardized representation of different kinds of queries that you might want to do against them. So they have a number of projects that are implementing sort of the Rosetta API specification. In our ecosystem, there is a company that's working on Rosetta API implementation for Blockstack. I commented on this issue. I don't think there's anything actionable here. Basically, they have a network endpoint that gives back the network name. And my comment, unless anyone disagrees, was that this isn't something that belongs as part of the core node API, because like a single node will be just part of a network. And we can have like some out of band thing that keeps track of like how many networks are in existence at any given point in time. And whether that's part of the Explorer or some other place they can get the information from. But at least as far as the core node is concerned, I don't think it belongs there. Oh, sorry, my bad. This was about the peers. Yeah, same thing. I think that the information that we have in the neighbors endpoint should be sufficient for their purposes. Unless I hear back, it should be safe to do.
The current implementation of the V2 neighbors is not very useful at the moment for two reasons. And I've been meaning to create an issue there. You still see the non-routable IPs for all the neighbors in Argon. And the port you get is the port for the peer network, not for the HTTP, and it's a HTTP call. So if you just use HTTP, you can't use that call to actually walk all the neighbors.
So regarding the first issue, we can filter out like the 172 IP block pretty straightforward because that's known to be a private network. But generally speaking, like there's no way to guarantee that all the IP addresses given to you are going to guarantee to be routable. Like if you're behind a firewall, for example, there's no way.
Right, but there's no routable. You don't see the other miners. You only see 172s, which I think
I think Pascal might be pointing the issue that I don't know how broadly we communicated the config change. Do you remember the DevOps team? You need to provide a specific value for the Bootstrap node for the source IP to get propagated to our Argon miner correctly. And if people are not using that correct value, it might not be propagating the correct IP address.
It should be the default right now, Diwakar.
Okay.
So I think Pascal's right. Like if you go to Stripe
if
right
you go
now,
to V2 neighbors, it was broken. It was broken over the weekend, but and then the second issue at the ports.
Yeah, can you guys see my terminal right now?
No.
No.
And Argon is not answering in 443 at the moment.
Sorry, let me run this here then. Oh, this is
You're looking for Argon.
And mine is not. Did the IP change?
the IP may have changed, but Argon master.blockstack. Maybe
Because I was just using the IP address directly, but
oh no, I'm sorry. You need to be using the XYZ domain, I think. Oh wait, this is still 172s.
yeah, there's the only one you're saying is that there's another version, I think, of Argon.
Yeah, there's argon.blockstack.org as well. But it looks like it's all returning the same information except for this one right here. This is just a public endpoint for argon.blockstack though.
Yeah, but unless there no other miners running at the moment.
So I think there are these IP addresses are the ingress IP addresses that are.
That's my assumption. So either it needs to be there's a configuration issue or there needs to be some update to the call to get the proper, because it's in the header somewhere that has been added by the NAT. But that's one issue. The other issue is that the port, you have to guess what the HTTP port is to be able to use HTTP to walk the network.
Yeah, right now the way you learn the HTTP port, and more generally the way you learn the URL to the HTTP endpoint, is by handshaking with the node on this IP import here. This is documented in the SIP 003. The data URL whereby the HTTP endpoint comes from is not guaranteed to be the same as the node in the first place. Reason being is that we want it to be the case that you can run a node offline, like a miner, like behind a NAT, but you can upload your data to like an S3 bucket or to your Gaia hub, and your Gaia hub can serve as your HTTP endpoint for your blocks. But I agree, like that data URL should be propagated here in V2 neighbors.
Right,
So
whether it's the port or the URL, yeah. The URL would be even better, but otherwise,
yeah, ideal.
The only way to actually get an idea of what the network looks like is to use the peer version.
Right, and this is basically pulling up what will be relayed in a neighbor's request.
Right, but till you get the routable versions, you still can't do that anyway. I
agree. We should we open a DevOps issue on this. I'm going to add that as an action item here. That's not it. Sorry, here it is.
So anyways, coming back to the Rosetta issue, I don't think there's any action item needed on us just yet until we hear back more from those folks.
Okay, moving on then. Add network name to V2 info. I think this is the same concern to Walker.
Yep, same. Yep, yeah.
Okay.
I can add a comment to this one as well.
Sounds good. And we got Phil, I think, reported this bug here. Miner running but stops paying Bitcoin.
Depends on exactly when this was filed. I mean, we had a couple of different testnet resets happen over the weekend, so
yeah,
I don't know if it's related to.
Wouldn't you know it? I think ZenHub has frozen.
So
is that the issue that I commented on? Because
yep.
it was a case where the main error is that Argon was not answering his miner.
Yeah.
Because he had network errors on the.
Sorry, bear with me. ZenHub is still being a piece of trash.
Just open it on GitHub.
Sorry, where's open it on
Yeah,
GitHub?
the two threads, the mining.
I put in a link to the GitHub issue.
The mining thread and the relayer thread had stopped being in the log. but the key thing is that you could see that Argon was timing it. It was every 90 seconds you had a message that Argon was not answering. I'm not sure when 90 seconds, because the timelines are 30, but so the only way to resolve this issue is to understand what was happening on the Argon side, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the timestamp, this was definitely at a time where we had the Kubernetes outage internally. So I'm not surprised that a bunch of our infrastructure was unreachable at that time. So.
Well, speaking of unreachable, ZenHub has ceased being cooperative, so I don't know if I can continue working through these issues.
All right, you can open up this specific issue directly on GitHub, Jude.
Well, no, I mean other issues. Like I think
Yeah.
we're done with this one.
Let me see if we can use our project board for going through the new issues or any other remaining new issues.
Do you want to send that in the chat?
Yeah. So I put it in the Zoom chat, and yeah, we should be able to use it too.
All right, that seems to have loaded. Goodbye, ZenHub.
So yeah, we were on the testnet bug mining running, but stopped paying PTC.
Yes. And yeah, like you were saying, the timestamp is right when the testnet decided to go die.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask him to reproduce it.
Yeah, if you can. Otherwise, I think it's probably a one fix.
Yeah, I think.
Lots of debug output. I love it when people post debug output. I really do. Please keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that if we can conclude that this is actually being caused, that this was actually caused by inability to communicate with Argon Bitcoin node, then we should close this issue because like.
Yeah, in my last comment, you should see the meaningful bit of the log that was.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like the peer disconnecting.
Because again, the testnet deadlocked. It stopped taking requests.
That was on Sunday. I think this was filed on Friday.
I think it may have happened before Sunday. I noticed Saturday. Like I checked the testnet status before anything else, and the testnet status page report had been down for like at least half a day prior to me checking.
Yeah, because these timestamps were a little earlier than the message on Discord.
Yeah, but the peer-to-peer thread not responding shouldn't cause you to stop spending Bitcoin. Like it's not getting responses from the Bitcoin indexer.
Well, it wasn't his node from the log. He was not getting any new blocks, so he couldn't mine anything.
Oh,
right, because the remote node had ceased communicating on its peer-to-peer interface.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the reason why you couldn't mine. But the root cause is that you can't actually get anything from Argon.
Yeah.
But then in that case, shouldn't we have seen like some connection failures in the logs? Like I don't see any.
Right.
Well,
it would also try to mine a new Genesis block if it just wasn't getting any blocks. So this might actually be a case of the deadlock behavior that Jude is describing. Because like if the relayer thread is backed up waiting for the peer-to-peer thread to process something, then you would never get to the mine loop.
Yeah, the tenure processor would stall trying to tell the relayer to go process a tenure.
Yeah, the only thread I think left is that 7, 1 and 6 that usually the mining and the relayer, I think.
I see.
We're no longer in this last log. The first log that was an attached file.
Yeah, the thread's still.
It was gone, and this is the last time you see thread 6 and thread 1 in that
I
second
see.
part of the log.
Yeah. All right.
But I don't think if they've, I would think that if you mine already blocks, you won't remine a new Genesis block. You would just, you need because it was not
Yeah.
getting Bitcoin blocks.
Yeah, if it wasn't getting Bitcoin blocks, I think we should see a different message. But yeah, we need to look into this more, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like the Bitcoin message that we should see should be coming from source burn chain somewhere. Like it would say like failed to connect to Bitcoin.
Yeah,
It's
that I didn't see any messages
Yeah.
failing to connect to the, because
Yeah,
it's a different port.
Right. Yeah.
it seems to be pulling Bitcoin stuff. You see these send get headers, handle ping.
Yeah, I see it. So yeah, so to me that means it's probably experiencing the double channel fill deadlock.
Well, we would see the peer network shut down if that were the case, and it doesn't appear that it is. I mean, if it's possible that it's on the receiving end of this, right? Like this node was fine, but the act of trying to talk to the deadlocked master node causes this problem.
All right.
So I was actually looking at the timestamp from the logs, and I think the timestamp maps to maybe more than 5 days ago. So I'm actually inclined to think that this is nothing to do with the outages that we had starting Friday. And in which case, I think the deadlock hypothesis probably is the most promising. And in the past, when the testnet has been down, the logs are actually much more loud. Like we would see a lot more warnings and errors. In this case, we have a bunch of debugs, but there is really literally no warnings at all, which is also surprising.
Yeah,
Right.
the deadlock wouldn't be causing warnings.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess the consensus will look more into this after this meeting,
Yep.
but tentatively assume it's probably the deadlock.
Yeah.
Then where would you get the message that Argon is not answering either?
Well, that message like might not be indicative of a problem in and of itself. There might just be like a transient, like the Argon node might just be under high load and it's dropped your connection, and so
Yeah, but that happened for at least, because his first log was 17 minutes worth of it.
Yeah.
So Argon was not answering for 17 minutes. That's so, I mean,
Yeah, it's a long time. But even if Argon is not answering on that port, that peering port, the node would mine. It would just mine an old block or a block that is unlikely to become the chain.
The other hypothesis that I have no way to verify that, because Philip is running this from a VM on his machine, so it's possible his network VM was impacted. Although you'd see timeout on the Bitcoin side of things.
Yeah.
Also, in the entire log, there's just a single receive timeout. So I don't think that suggests that Argon was down for an extended period of time.
Yeah,
No, there's six of them there's a log file first.
I see. I'm not looking at the log file. I'm just looking at the logs that are in the issue.
Yeah, there's a first log that was the end of it.
I see.
There's 6 during the 17 minutes. There's 6 timeouts about every 90 seconds. The one I checked was 95 seconds.
Okay.
Because I asked for more log for earlier, because you could not see thread 6 and thread 1. So that's the end of what you see for these 2 threads.
I think we can maybe move on, pick up the sort of debugging offline. But for now, assume that, if it was the deadlock issue, since it hasn't been fixed on the testnet, I think it's only a matter of time before it resurfaces. So hopefully we'll be able to catch it once more in production.
Yep, we're running short on time, so we should just move on for now. Last issue that's new for this week was Jason's comment here. He managed to get the test net to panic. I think this might be a manifestation of the Marf corruption bug that was fixed last week. He's going to get back to me today. He's out of office until Monday to let me know what the what branch of what version of master he was running to help confirm this further.
I think
Yeah,
the script though is oh, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say there's also a there's a potentially panicking path in the minor mine blocks assemble that is corrected in my PR. There's like a order of operations where if the minor errors in one of the setup paths, it can leave the clarity state non-committed and not rolled back, which will later cause a panic. We haven't seen that in production yet, but could also potentially be something going on here.
What I was going to say is that his script rechecks out for master every time he starts it. So based on when he started it, that PR should have been merged.
Okay.
Although he said he will double check the times, but in the log, but it might be some other one.
Yeah, this is the error right here that led to this. I think the testnet node failed to process a network dispatch because it failed to load the sortition for a particular fork, Aaron.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't think it's related to clarity. I think it's related to some way in which we're committing snapshots.
Interesting. Yeah, probably needs to be investigated then.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show you the root cause of that failure?
No.
I mean, there's no way to know, right? It tried to read a snapshot that it expected to be there, and it wasn't. So.
Or it's just not there.
Yeah. We can keep working through the debugging offline, but we're running short on time, so I'm just going to go ahead and proceed.
Wait, there was an additional issue.
Oh.
I think Jay Wiley opened an issue about like JSON logging or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to quickly talk about that, or is that something that?
I mean, we should decide whether or
We have
not
an
this
older
is.
issue on structured logging. I was trying to look for it, but I couldn't find a pre-existing issue.
Yeah.
If not, then we can use this as a canonical issue for structured
Yes.
logging.
Yeah. I also thought that there was a previous issue for structured logging and then couldn't find it. So
Should we put a milestone on this, or is this gonna be backlogged?
I mean, I'm not planning on working on this in the next
Yeah,
week.
me neither. I don't have time.
But like the question of like whether or not this is something we want to do is,
I think as long as if it sounds to me like there's no like strong opposition, it's mostly a function of bandwidth and doing it at a time where we have an appetite for making sort of sweeping changes to the code base. So I would say like once the dust has settled on all of this refactoring, at that point, we can either get some help from the community to do this, because there is a way to like approach this in a way that's minimizes disruption, at least in the early on. I think we talked about this even, right? Like we could re-implement our current log macros behind some sort of structured logging facade and then make incremental changes.
Yep.
If everyone's aligned on that plan, I think we can leave this open and then just figure out a way to get it done down the road.
I'm personally not a big fan of JSON logs, unless you use a logging facility that you can configure what the log looks like, JSON or regular or whatever.
Yeah, we can have multiple representations on the back.
Yeah, multiple representation, that's fine, and everybody picks their poison. But
I'm the same way. Like I grab my log files and I use a text editor to read them. I don't use
right, yeah.
Yes, but structured logging, even if you're going to use Apache styled logging, is very nice because it at the least it shows you like exactly the like associated outputs. Like you can there's ways to parse data out of Apache logs that we're not doing in standard ways, right? Like if you're associating keys and values with Apache logs, you're supposed to do things like key equals value and stuff like that. So structured logging would have a benefit even if we used a different backend than JSON.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't think anyone's opposed to having a JSON representation as a backend,
Cool.
as long as it's optional or configurable.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all for the issues. Because this was the stopping point for last week here. So real quick, let's go ahead and do the last item, and that's look at the testnet timeline and estimates. So we are right here on the 10th. So I think we're going to have to push a few things back again. Like I think this is going to have to move to this week. Aaron, you said anchor block detection is going to be happening this week sometime?
Yeah, I mean, I hope to have a PR open either late today or tomorrow.
Cool.
And then whatever amount of time that takes to review, I guess will get eaten up by that purple thing. In terms of the stacking wire format, that's for Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, that's all this is at this point.
Yeah, and I would say that we actually just push that all the way out. Like
Well, I need to start testing it though, like after POX.
Yes, but we shouldn't necessarily delay the inclusion of POX into the testnet.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, like we could have a version of the testnet that just does stacking on the Stacks chain.
That's fair. Let's go ahead and do that. This is just going to be pushed further here. And same with lockup state, just because that PR is going to require a bit of restructuring.
Yeah, and then for the that orange block, the sortition using the recipient set. So what I'll try to do is like after I've finished the anchor block detection stuff, I will try to get some work into the sortition using the recipient set done with like some stubbing or something in place so that it doesn't depend like 100% on the lockup state and that stuff. But at some point, like those two will have to serialize.
So maybe like just leave it here then.
Yeah, but just like
it.
the note is that the end date on that can never be shorter than the end date on the
on this, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we quickly review all of the boxes that are already past the date that we're currently on, just to see like if they're actually done? Like, you know, there's the integrate chains coordinator, there's block DB identification.
Yeah, these are both done. This is in review still, but should be finished by the end of today for reviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is done, right, Aaron?
The testing, yeah. So there's integration testing included in that PR, and then there's sort of more integration testing in the anchor block detection PR as well.
Sounds good. Are you testing cases of like POX reorgs?
Yeah, so that's basically what all the new tests for the anchor block detection PR do.
Awesome.
Yeah, is like it does like the test does like quadratic reorgs.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, we want to really stress test this.
Yeah, so you have like a node that like misses 10 POX anchor blocks in a row, and then iteratively downloads them and tries to reprocess. So
does it do it in like a weird order? Like maybe it finds anchor block number 8 first or something like that?
So it doesn't right now. I could add another test that does them out of order. But that actually shouldn't matter too much because the the staging block database wouldn't pass them to the coordinator as like blocks ready to process. So
True. All right, awesome. Maybe just scroll down into the work items here. So this right here is more or less this right here, the stacks chain view on happy paths. This is part of your PR, Aaron.
yeah.
Cool. And this is part of the chains coordinator transaction wrapping for adding stacks and burn chain blocks.
Not really, unfortunately. The bones are there for doing it, but actually doing it is a little bit more of an invasive process. I think that all of the databases in question need to share a SQLite database. Like, if we're going to actually do cross database transactions, which is what's required here.
Do we know for a fact that we need this though?
Right, that we need this. Probably not. I don't think that we do. Let me think. Yeah, I don't think so. I need to think more about this, because basically the sort of soft state of the coordinator is regenerated on restart, but it requires that the sortition DB not get into a corrupt state. So we need to look at that.
Well, we have that issue right now already to think about.
Yeah.
That from Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Networking stuff should be obvious, but haven't had a chance to touch it yet because I'm still working on the POX chain state, the POX lockup and delegation code. That will come afterwards. For phase 4, do we have anything new to add here? Any sort of assessments or opinions or issues that are not covered here that we thought of in the last week?
I don't think so. I think that one of the things that we're going to need eventually is the sort of on-chain upgrade mechanism for Clarity costs.
Oh shit, you're right. We definitely will want that.
Yeah.
Tentatively calling that medium. I think either of us can work on this.
Yeah.
And it's this issue here. All right.
And then that also correspondingly places a little less, like it de-risks the Clarity cost calculation work.
It also de-risks the need for a hard fork right out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about this. Like if we get some cost wrong, there's a way to fix it in band.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Right, I think that puts us at the end of the meeting. Is there a way to go back? Damn it, there isn't. Same thing open here. Sorry, Dropbox Paper is not the friendliest piece of software. All right, we got on action items. Is there anything else that we need to think about immediately besides looking at the async debugging concerns that were brought up earlier?
Wait, what async debugging?
Oh, you know, the one from Jason.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought we were talking about like concerns related to debugging asynchronous processes.
Oh,
I
dear
was
God,
like,
no.
I was like, I must have missed that discussion.
No, I just meant like we're gonna look at
Yeah.
ways to make
Cool.
sure that they, aren't some new thing yet.
Yep.
All right, cool. Anything else? I'm sorry, we're over time. We're about a few minutes over, 10 minutes over.
Nope.
All right. All right. Thanks for joining us, Pascal.
Oh, you're welcome. It's very informative. I haven't seen recordings from the past few weeks, so, although you still get a good sense of what's happening from the issues. But
Yeah, but like
yeah. I think we need to be a little bit better about actually posting the recordings. So,
but following the POX changes is a little hard just from the diff in GitHub.
yeah.
It's a little massive. I was trying to do some mining changes, but the POX code doesn't seem to be quite ready yet. But doing it in the old code doesn't make too much sense either, because a lot of it will need to be rewritten. So
Yeah, I think that after sort of this wave of PRs on the POX refactor, most of the PRs should be a lot more
bite-sized.
bite-sized and
right,
like
yeah.
sort of
That's
purpose-driven.
That's fine. I'm not complaining. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to stay at least
Yes.
somewhat not too far from what's happening, so I don't have to relearn too much stuff afterwards. But
Yeah.
so
This should be the last big set of refactorings that happen before mainnet, because this is
Right.
like the last big ticket issue that we have before then.
right, and although I've been working on and thinking about a new proposal to do upgrades for miners,
Mm-hmm.
where the VM can change. I'd still need maybe a couple more days to write that up, but it
Nice.
might be something that works, but you don't want to consider it anyway, because it will be too much.
Well, we'll see. I mean,
So I don't
I
know,
look forward to
and
reading
maybe
about it,
because
at least.
one of you would just like read it and just see that it cannot work and just miss something. So I'm still a few days away from this. So definitely a lot more changes would be needed to implement that than the other clarity upgrades that we've been considering. So especially it might negatively impact the size of the block. So I don't know. We'll see. I still need a few more days to sort of finish wrapping it up, and then I'll put it in out of the wild, and then you can shut it down.
Nice. Well, I definitely look forward to reading it. So
Yeah,
All right.
likewise.
cool.
Yeah,
All
love
right.
to chat. I'd love to talk about it more.
All right. Good to talk to you guys.
Yep. Likewise. All right. Adios.
See you online.